Welcome back. In this session, we are going to do hands-on lab on Kubernetes Service, especially cluster IP. And this is our seventh guided lab. And if you have been following from the earlier session, so we have completed all these labs in the past. If not, please go ahead, open the previous videos and complete all these labs, then come here. Otherwise, this will not make sense. Well, so we already understood in the previous session what is Kubernetes Service and what is cluster IP. So let's go and do the lab and then it will make more sense. So let me scroll down, and here we are going to create a project directory the way we used to do. So go to the terminal and let me put this. Then we are going to create our NGINX deployment. So let me copy this, and this is exactly same deployment which we have used in the past. So let me copy this and paste this. Let me save this and I will show you. So you see, this is the deployment, and here name is NGINX deployment, and here we are using label for app as a NGINX, and this is most important part of this deployment. And anyways, we have been using from the past as well, right? So now for this deployment, this is the label NGINX, right? Then we have the replica too. Then for this replica, again we have the using as a match label as the app and the NGINX, and we have again a rolling update strategy. Then we have the template for the container, and again here you see we have the label is the NGINX, right? So now when it's going to create any container, so it will have the label NGINX, right? Then we have the spec for this container, and this is the name, image, and the port. And I have also added readiness prop and also liveness props, as we already understood in the past, and also a resource. So now using this configuration, we are going to create our pods. So using the deployment, so let's go and run this, and now this got created. And of course, we can go ahead and see the deployment, and it's always good to see that mostly this is successful. Okay, now let's see the details of these containers. Okay, now we see these containers are running, right? Both are ready and running. It has this IP address. Now question is, now we want to access these both pods, right? How do we do that? For that, we are going to create the ClusterIP service. So let's create these files, and this is something new for you. I will explain this code. So let me get this code and put it here, and let's save this and let's understand this. So now what is the kind? Kind is the service. As we know, we are going to use service, right? So this is, so kind is the service. Then again we have the metadata. In the spec, here we have the selector. Now again, this is very important. So here what we are saying to this service, hey, please always look for the pods which has the label NGINX, right? And where this is going to look, so if you see in the previous deployment in our template in the container, right? So this is our container spec, right? So here what is the label? NGINX, right? So this is going to look all the pods that's going to create from this deployment, right? So it's going to create two replica. So it's already created, right? So it means it's going to look into this two replica what's got created over here, right? So we are saying to this service, please look into selector, look into all the pods that has the label NGINX. Okay, then what you are going to do, please look to these containers and try to reach them on the port. Target port is 80. So if someone trying to access me as a service, right? Because if someone need to access these pods, they need to access the service, right? So if someone trying to access me at the port 80, right, then send this request to target port 80. And what is the target port? On all the ports that has this label, right? And what is the service? Service type is the cluster IP, as I said, right? So we are currently doing hands-on on the cluster IP service. Let me repeat once again. So what we are doing, we are creating this service, and the service is what is type? Cluster IP. And then the service, cluster IP service, going to look for all ports which has the label NGINX. And if someone tried to access this service at the port 80, it will forward traffic to the target port 80 for all the NGINX containers which have, ports which have label NGINX. Okay, so this is what this is doing. Well, let's copy this and let's go ahead and create this service. Well, now this got created. You see this unchanged because I was doing some demo, right? So it's already got created. So no worries. If you go and tried it, you will get it. So now let's see this service and put here. Now what you see, so now this is our service. What is type? Cluster IP, and this is the IP of this service, right? So now using this IP, we are going to access our all these ports, all these 2 ports. Okay, and again this another way as well. Let's understand this. So we can also get the endpoints of this service. So let's copy this and clear the screen. Get the ports here. Okay, now let's get the service here. Now let's get the endpoint. Now try to understand this. So what happened here? Now we see, so at this endpoint, which endpoint? Here, NGINX service, or maybe this cluster IP, right? So now we have this service, NGINX service. It has this IP, permanent IP, correct? And again, this is whether we can use this name or this cluster IP. This is currently pointing to these 2 containers, right? This container and this container. If you see this IP address, this is same IP address as this one, this IP address, and where this is pointing on the port number 80, right? And how this is coming? Because of the label selector, right? So currently here we have only 2 ports, and both ports has the label NGINX. So this is showing us 2 ports, right? Now if you go and change this to the 3, then it will become 3. Let's quickly do that. So vi00, open this, hit the enter. Let's go ahead and let's make this 3 and save this. Then kubectl apply -f 00, kubectl apply -f 00. What happened? I think I have did some mistakes. Let me open it again. vi00. So if you see here, okay, I was when typing this, I did some mistakes, right? So here was I. Let me delete this. It happens. Now let's go ahead and apply this. Okay, now kubectl get ports -w wide. Now we see we have the 3 ports. Now kubectl get svc -w wide. Now we see, right, here we have this and this again IP, and now if you see that this is pointing to what is selector, app NGINX. Now what we are interested, we are more interested about this endpoint. So let me copy this, okay, and let's go here and type this. Okay, now we see we have the 3 IP, one IP 54, then 55, then we have the 56, right? Now you see we haven't done anything. So because we have used this selector, right, we have used this app NGINX selector, because of that now this is pointing to these 3 ports, right? Perfect. Now I think this we have tested. Now let's go ahead do some real tests, right? So now what we are going to do, we are going to create another pod called tester, and from these pods we are going to access all these pods. So service discovery feature we are getting from the service, right? First thing. Second things, again this is going to do the load balancing, correct? So now what we are going to do, we are going to create this new pods, and from this pod we are going to access these pods, this NGINX pods, using the service. So let me copy this. Let's see if this is running, right? So this pods is running, and now if you do kubectl get pods, we see we have this pod is running, correct? Now we want to access this. So what we are going to do, we are going to run this command. Try to understand this. So here using kubectl exec, we are getting inside which this pod, and then we are doing ssh using sh, right? We are getting there, and from there we are doing wget where on this service NGINX service, that what we have created. So let's go ahead and test this. Copy this, go to the terminal and paste this. Now we see, right, welcome to the NGINX, and this is what's running on these pods, correct? Now this is working perfect. Now again here we are accessing using the service name. We can also access from the cluster IP address as well. So let me copy this, and before that, and for that we need our cluster IP address, right? So we need to get it. So let me go and copy this and paste this. Now we know this is the cluster IP. Now scroll down, let me copy this and paste this, and here we need to replace with our cluster IP address. So let's get the cluster IP address and paste this. Now we see this working, right? So we are able to access our NGINX pods using the service name and the service cluster IP. Well, now what we are going to do, we are going to break the selector. Okay, so let's open our SVC and change the selector. So okay, let me show you what's going to be happen. Let's open this. Let me paste this. Currently we see, right, this is pointing to the 3 pods, correct? Now let's open vi01. This is our SVC configuration, and now here we are going to change selector as a, just put something, nothing, okay, and save this, and then we are going to apply no kubectl ctl apply -f01. Now let's go ahead and run this command. Currently there is nothing running with the nothing tags, right? Because of that we see this is currently pointing to the none of the pods, right? So this was the expected because our deployment running with the NGINX label, but currently here we are pointing with the nothing, but there is nothing running inside this cluster, right, with this selector. That's why we see here 0 endpoints, right, non endpoints. Again if you go and test this, right, again we will get nothing, right? It's trying to connect, right? It's not able to get anything because technically it's not pointing to any of the pods. Perfect. I have also added some more test over here. If you want and interested, please go ahead and perform that. Once again, I'm going to add this whole lab inside the resource section and also in the comment of this videos. Please go ahead and read it and perform this couple of times, and it will give you a real picture of how cluster IP service works in Kubernetes. Thank you so much. See you in the next video.